Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to speak to the entire package of bills and offer up my no vote explanation.
Without objection, so ordered.
Madam President, this chamber worked so hard over a 15-month period to craft a bipartisan plan that would help make the Detroit public school system a better school system for the students, the parents, and the teachers who currently rely on it. And unfortunately, what the House sent back to us, what we are getting ready to vote on here today, is a massive step backwards. And in my opinion, it appears to be specifically designed to set DPS up for failure. We can all agree that we want a stable Detroit public school system. I think that includes a system that allows for the opening and closing of schools in a manner that makes sense for the children in Detroit. The House plan, without question, falls woefully short of these goals. And under the guise of protecting school choice, the House Republicans sent us a plan that offers parents no real choice at all. It simply protects failing schools and a model that offers students no real chance for success. It lacks any planning. It lacks any authority that would lend some common sense to the opening and closing of those schools throughout the district. And I have to be forthright with you, Madam President, when I say all the consternation, all the frustrations around the DEC and what that would do, I truly don't understand this. Nobody said in the beginning of this conversation that we wanted to have a pro-public or a pro-charter argument. Nobody said that we wanted to pit schools against one another. We said from the beginning, set that argument aside, and let's have a conversation about good schools, regardless of whether or not they're public or charter. And in the plan that we sent over to the House of Representatives, we said if you're an A school or a B school, it don't matter if you're public or charter. If you're a good school, keep doing good things. Go anywhere that you want. But if you're a C school or a D school or an F school, a school that none of us would ever want our children to be in, well, then you need to pump the brakes before you want to replicate throughout the city. So if you push back on that plan, if you push back on that model, you're saying that you want bad schools to continue operating. You want bad schools to continue to spread into the neighborhoods within my community. Why would we ever want bad schools responsible for educating our children? I truly don't understand it. The system that we have here in front of us today perpetuates a system where charter authorizers have carte blanche to open up new schools. And again, anybody who wants to think that it's a charter versus public argument, the charters aren't just siphoning away students from public schools anymore, they're cannibalizing other charters. The enrollment for DPS has leveled off over the past few years. You're not hurting DPS anymore. You're hurting yourselves. And I know that some are going to say, Senator, how could you be so anti-choice? 50% of your kids are in charter schools. And again, I say to you, from the beginning, the argument for me never was pro-choice, anti-choice, pro-public, anti-public. It was about good schools. It was about a quality education. I wanted good schools in Detroit to expand. I wanted to use their proven models to improve educational outcomes for every single child across the city. The solution that is in front of us seems so simple, Madam President, yet it seems so difficult to achieve. And why is that? Simply put, we are allowing one special interest group to decide the fate of 100,000 children in Detroit. And I tell you, colleagues, it pains me in my heart to say that, because I hate it when we, as elected officials, boil down such huge issues into such infinitesimal talking points. Special interest groups coming into the city. Unfortunately, that is the truth of what's happening in front of us here today. Not a ton of them, just one, kowtowing to what one person wants. The House seems so determined to continue with this nasty experiment on the children of Detroit. It's a strategy that Moody's has said systematically undermined the stability of Detroit schools and contributed to that debt crisis itself. Here in the Senate, Madam President, in this body, we made sure that DPS would have an accountability system that applied fairly to all schools. And what we were sent back is exactly what we would expect if one of these lobby groups was allowed to write the legislation, a plan with no accountability whatsoever, a plan that calls for thoroughly debunked ideas like merit pay and uncertified teachers, a plan that offers no real hope of resolving the deepest issues that faced our education system in Detroit. I hate to steal from my colleague, but I again would ask you, would you want uncertified teachers teaching your children? And if you can answer yes to that, it begs the question, where does it end? My colleague talked about uncertified doctors. Would you want an uncertified lawyer representing you in the courtroom? I doubt it. And better yet, if your answer to that question is no, which I think many of you would say, then why is it okay to subject Detroit's children to an unequal and unproven model of education? This legislation takes so many steps backwards, moves so far away from what the intent of this plan ever was from the beginning. Going after teachers, restricting collective bargaining, penalties for whistleblower actions taken by teachers to protest the conditions in their schools, and let us not forget the years of neglect and willful ignorance by the state-appointed managers that helped to get us here in the first place. None of this, none of what we're voting on today is sound evidence-based policymaking, and we should be wary of it. So let's call this plan what it really is. Madam President, this plan is a farce. It is not about helping the children of Detroit. It's about money. It's about a political party. It's about a chamber that is so desperate to move on from this issue in an election cycle. It is about catering to lawmakers who are more worried about keeping their jobs come November than building a successful system for children in Detroit. This arrangement is little more than a stay of execution. Once the money runs out, and it will run out, the district will plunge back into debt and jeopardize the future of Detroit's children. Colleagues, I ask you, do not allow the House to hold us hostage. We know we can do better because we have done better in this chamber. In the Senate, we listen to teachers, we listen to parents, we listen to students, we listen to local officials, we listen to education experts. We carefully assessed the dollar amount necessary to not only eliminate the debt, but to also set the district on a path to financial success. We built in funding to repair schools. We built in funding to help the district through the transition. Giving in to this ludicrous plan would be a mistake that your children don't pay for, but that Detroit children pay for. My community will continue to feel this pain for many years to come. And so I strongly encourage you to vote no for the parents, and I strongly encourage you to vote no for the teachers, and most importantly, I encourage you to vote no for the students of Detroit. We can do better, colleagues, and we must do better. And I would be remiss if I didn't point out, before I stepped away from the podium here today, my colleague from the 34th District. This is the plan that we took 15 months to develop, 125 pages, and we just threw it away. What an insult to a man who has spent so much time in my district, who has bent over backwards to get to know my community, who has sacrificed his own personal and political relationships, who has sacrificed his relationships at home. You say what you want about our 10-member caucus. We would never stab one of our own in the back like what we're doing to the senator from the 34th District today. What an insult. What a slap in the face to him after all the hard work that he put into this bill. For that, I say to the senator, I am terribly sorry. But from the bottom of my heart, I thank you for all the effort that you put into this. My community will not forget it, and neither will I. Thank you, Madam President. I like my remarks printed in the journal.